Yeah, but if somebody wanted to, we could talk to council.
Hey,
I just don't know what the difference is. I mean, I can understand as a private.
We can't block navigable water for private use.
Well, I don't even need it back, I just wanna know if you have it.
Yeah,
I have it.
That's all.
I'm
they
pretty
could
sure.
put like
but
3 buoys going up and 4 buoys going across, it just says swim area.
And you keep it, I just want to cost money.
Okay, anyway,
Yeah.
we put that up.
So what, are we gonna shelve that one or what? We'll send it back to them and get better.
the BS
For the
signing
discussion.
out.
Yeah, or we could just say, no rope, like makes that part.
Just buoys.
Yeah, no rope.
Chance,
Okay,
yep, just by the end of the meeting.
yeah.
All right, your mic is live, just so you know.
It's just DNR rules.
Thanks, how are you? I'm thinking you didn't get your packet.
I did not.
That's why I have it right here.
Okay, thank you. Cold enough for you? I thought maybe it wouldn't have anything happening tonight because, all the schools are closed. Oh, my goodness.
Getting a little better though tonight. It's not as bad as last night.
Not quite as bad. But it's supposed to be down to, still, it's chilly. How are you, Sherry? It's like duplicated efforts here.
All right, it's 7 p.m., and I'm going to call the January 21st, 2025 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board to order. We have a quorum. We're called to order. So we're on to item number 3, approval of agenda. And does anyone have any adjustments that they would like for tonight's agenda? Scott?
Yeah, I'd like to add under educational, approval of the 2025 press publications contract for the Laker.
Okay. And anyone else? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. And then the next item on the agenda is approval of the November board meeting minutes, the November 19th, 2024 board meeting minutes. Does anybody have any adjustments that they would like to make to those minutes? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Public comments. So we reserve 15 minutes at each board meeting for the public to come forward and discuss items that are not on the agenda. And would anybody like to take advantage of that 15 minutes? Okay, we'll move on. We have a public hearing, but that's not going to start until 7:10, so we will move on to new business. The first item of new business is nominations for executive board members. And the way this works is that we'll accept nominations at tonight's meeting, and then those nominations will stay open until our February board meeting, and then at the February board meeting, we will vote on the nominations. And so I would like to open up the nominations. Would anybody like to make any nominations? Mike?
Excuse me, I'd like to nominate Brian D. Smith for chairman and Meredith Wahlberg for vice chairman.
Okay, and I will nominate Mike Pronto for secretary treasurer. Would anybody else like to make any nominations?
I was going to say the same 3. So.
Okay, so as I mentioned, the nominations will stay open until our February meeting, and then we'll vote on them. And if somebody does have a strong desire to be nominated, just let Sherry know, and or let another board member know, and we can, I'm sure, accommodate that. Okay, so I think that's Alan.
Typically, we've also taken nominations the night of the actual vote.
Okay.
If anyone's too shy to actually do it tonight,
Yep.
Name an alternate. It stays open until there's a vote.
True. So the nominations are open until we take the vote at our February meeting. Yep. Thank you.
We're missing obviously a couple.
Okay, and we'll move on to the next item. Board activity calendar review. So Sherry has prepared a board activity, an annual activity calendar that's in your packet. And do we approve that?
Yes, I think last year you did, review it and we'll vote on it next month. And if there are any additions or changes, you can email me with that.
Perfect. So I'll just reiterate that. So if you, after your review of the document, if you have any changes that you'd like to see in it or suggested changes, let Sherry know, and then we will vote on this to finalize it at the February meeting. Okay. The next item is the 2024 annual report draft. and that's a similar situation. So Sherry has prepared the 2024 annual report in a draft form. Please review that, and if you have any suggested changes to that report, let Sherry know, and we'll finalize it at our February meeting. And if anybody wants to talk about these things right now, just raise your hand. I'm not opposed to that. Okay. The next item are annual designations. And if I don't get this right, please correct me, Sherry, but as a board, we annually want to alert people of how we will, where we will make notices, how we will, or where we do banking, and basically all the details of how the board does their commercial work and or banking work and that kind of thing. And you can see that in your packet, the annual designations. And this is something that we can act on tonight. Yes. So I'm going to make a motion to approve our 2025 annual designations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so that passes. And then the final item under new business, the non-conflict of interest forms. And Sherry has handed those out to everybody. And if you could complete them before you leave tonight and get them back to Sherry, that'd be great. Okay, and okay, we're on to unfinished business. The 2024 Lake Use Study. Meredith?
Okay, Steve McComas will right now is scheduled to be at our February meeting to present the draft study of the lake use study. Then all board members will have time to look it over and make any comments or suggestions you'd like to make on the study. At some point, it's possible we'll have him back again, perhaps March, perhaps another month, to present to the public the entire study for the public to ask questions and things like that. Right now, it seems to be on time, and I'm hoping that I get a draft any day now to start looking through. Does anyone have any questions on the lake use study?
Okay. Thank you, Meredith. Reports, action items, the executive committee report, I'll give that. Okay, so so the executive committee met December 19th. We discussed the Starry Stonewort response plan, which is still in the works. The VFW DNR permit comments, and you'll remember at the November meeting that the board approved Sherry sending comments to the DNR on our behalf, and that was done. We discussed ordinances related to the dog beach and the fence, and my recollection is that there weren't any other than the ordinances that we had discussed at our November meeting. We also discussed Ordinance 6 that the public hearing will consider, and we adjusted the text, and you see the revised document in your packet. And then we also discussed a bit about the public hearing. We discussed the treasurer's report process, and if I don't get this right, correct me as well, Sherry. What we've been doing is we've been closing out the month's activities like middle of the month before the meeting.
At the board meeting, basically, a board meeting date.
The board meeting date. And we're going to switch that now to do that at the end of each month. Okay, we discussed one of the questions was how the city samples at, around the lake, like at the dog beach and this kind of thing. And Sherry investigated that a little bit. And basically they use water column samplers, which are little bottles with a cap. They put it down, and then they open the cap so that they get the water from, kind of the middle of the water column. And then they send that to Instrumental Research Incorporated Labs for analysis. We had a little discussion about a lake stewardship program, and Meredith and Sherry are working on that, and so you'll can expect to hear more about that in the future. We talked just briefly about the there's a Northeast groundwater group that meets to discuss basically how to address the low lake level conditions and what some possible solutions would be. As an example, connecting to St. Paul water and getting off wells. And then there was also a couple of other things like storing storm water and returning that to the lake, or pumping water from the Mississippi to the lake. With some level of treatment in between. But these are just ideas that they're kicking around. And the reason that it was brought up at the executive board meeting is so that it's on our radar a bit. And then, that's about it. Any questions on that stuff? Okay. And then I would like to correct a mistake that I made at the November meeting. And that's in regards to our administrator's wage. And I made the motion to increase the wage from $26 an hour to $28 an hour. And that was a mistake because Sherry was already at $28 an hour. So now I'm going to I'm going to make a motion now to increase retroactively to January 1st, 2025. Sherry's salary from $28 an hour to $30 an hour.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Should we correct that in the minutes too?
The last minute, the November minutes?
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe you can just make a note that that was Brian's error.
I will.
Okay, so, yep. So all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Okay, now we're after 7:10. So the way this is going to work is we have a public hearing that I'm going to open in just a moment. And at the public hearing, it's an opportunity for the board to take comments from the public on the revision to our Ordinance 6. And as you'll recall, and should I read this whole ordinance?
I don't think you need to read the whole thing, just give an overview of what we're doing with it.
Okay, and I can do that before I open the public hearing?
Yeah, that's a good to tee it up anyway for everybody.
Okay, so the Ordinance 6 historically has allowed people to appropriate or take water out of the lake when the lake level was above 923.5. The change to this ordinance would prohibit anyone from taking water from the lake with a mechanical device, like a pump, as an example, from the lake at any time. And and we had some discussion about this at the last meeting. Most people have access to another source of water, and as a practical matter, the lake hasn't been above 923.5 since the end of July 2022. So people, I assume, haven't been taking water anyway, and so their plants probably survived, or they made some adjustment. Okay, with that, I'm going to, and then just further, after the public hearing, we will take a vote on and have some discussion as a board on the change to the ordinance. Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing. And so anybody from the public that would like to come up and let us know what you think about that, the ordinance change, please do so. And then I should also say that we received one letter from people that live near the lake, and the letter was basically, and was that shared with the board?
No.
Okay. So,
We were just going to mention.
yeah, so the letter, I'll just summarize it. We're a retired couple. We have some shoreline that we planted with native plants, is my recollection, and hauling water in buckets from our house would be not something that we can undertake because we're, I mean, they said they were retired people. And so that was the intent of, or that was the crux of that letter. Okay, so the public hearing? Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask it 3 times. Would anybody like to come up and make a comment as part of the public hearing? Would anybody like to make a comment as part of the public hearing? Would anybody like to make a comment as part of the public hearing? Okay, and I'm going to close the public hearing now. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the amendment to ordinance number 6.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And just for clarity, what you're approving, or what the motion should be, is to approve the ordinance that's in front of everyone, right? It is an amended ordinance, so we're taking language that's already there and modifying it, so the ordinance is up for vote.
Okay, so I will modify my motion to approve the ordinance number 6 that's in front of you.
As amended and as in front of the board tonight.
Okay, and is the second okay with that? I don't know who made the
Second.
Okay. Okay, any discussion?
I'm assuming, Brian, that the mechanical portion covers people like that couple or children playing in the water, removing water from the lake with buckets, right?
No, mechanical would be something that's
I mean,
mechanically driven.
yeah, mechanical says that's how they're pulling it out. But kids taking buckets of water out are not going to be penalized in any way.
True.
Okay, that's the mechanical part, okay.
Yeah, I was just going to mention a couple things, but you know Mark Sather, who's a former city manager of White Bear Lake, and knows a lot of stuff. He knows a lot of the history. He, like an hour ago, sent an email, which I forwarded to you guys. But he basically has no objection to the changes, but he doesn't like the preamble of the resolution. He says he doesn't object to the proposed amendment of Ordinance 6 or its apparent intent. I do have a concern with the proposed preamble and believe it may cause avoidable issues in the future. Its reference to the lake level litigation and a settlement with communities which draw from the aquifer of White Bear Lake are not germane to what seems to be the purpose of the ordinance, and I believe may cause confusion in the future, i.e. what agreement litigation reached a district court ruling and determination of required authorized state appropriation permit changes continues with many municipalities in the ruling is outside the jurisdiction. So it says I do not propose changes to the ordinance other than the preamble, which I suggest be replaced with something like the following. Due to increased concern regarding fluctuation of water level of White Bear Lake, the Conservation District finds that the elimination of surface water extraction from the lake for non-public essential use through mechanical means is not in the public interest, and prohibition is provided herein is warranted, and therefore the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board of Directors ordains. So that's his suggestion for changing the preamble. And I will point out that the preamble does not appear in the ordinances. so when the change is made, it'll only have those changes.
Ordinance changes, yeah.
The other thing is I have been discussing this with a neighbor who's on the lake, and he was going to come and talk tonight, but he couldn't do it because he's doing business travel. So Alan suggested he could write a letter that could be kept as part of the public record. And he was starting to write the letter, but then he came down with norovirus. And he says, well, maybe I can do it this afternoon, but I don't think he got to it unless he received a letter.
Okay.
I can highlight a couple things in my discussion with him, what his concerns were. And of course, he wants to, he's got a very small area of grass, like Saudi planted last year. It's across South Shore Boulevard from his house. So I can't really take a hose across without getting it run over. So, but then, he says, well, this whole thing is really silly, because, all of the water from around the lake is taken from wells that come from, the same aquifers that feed the lake. So it doesn't really make any difference, which he finds frustrating. It also doesn't really differentiate between like commercial and industrial use and residential use. And there's an awful lot of difference. I mean, you don't want to have lake water appropriated to, like, say, cool a data center or water a golf course. But using a small amount to water plants and grass is like another matter. And he's kind of annoyed by the increase of penalties because all of a sudden you're taking a rather benign residential use of a small amount of water and say it's a regular misdemeanor, not just a petty one that you get a ticket for. So, he says, well, it should be, we should like take the opportunity to write it to ban industrial and commercial use, but not, this kind of, little residential use that we're doing. So I guess based on just sharing that, but I say I agree with him enough that I don't think I can support making changes to this. I could take it or leave it, but.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I'll just respond to a couple of those things. Lake's probably not going to get above 923.5, anytime soon. Maybe it will. But it's a prohibited use anyway. Even last year it was prohibited use. So if he was watering the lawn portion with the lake, that was prohibited. That's one thing. Second thing is, I live over by Bald Eagle Lake, and people do drag hoses across from the houses to the lakeside. And people run over those hoses, and I'm sure that he's probably capable of buying or able to buy a hose that's durable enough. I would assume, and I think that the idea of differentiating between residential and commercial use, if you have 150 homes all with a straw on the lake. Watering their lawns, that's quite a bit of water. And I don't know how many people are doing it, but it opens up that opportunity for, a bit of water to be used. So, I appreciate those points. I appreciate you bringing them up. Okay, but now we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, I appreciate people bringing up these unique situations where they perhaps don't have access to water, but as Brian mentioned, you haven't been able to use it since late July 2022. But maybe there is an instance that we're not thinking of, and certainly people could apply for a variance. I think this is the right thing to do for the lake in general for most homeowners, but I'm not saying that there isn't some lot somewhere that maybe needs a variance to this. We could consider that in the future.
Yeah, thank you for making that point. But yeah, that is the case, that if people have a hardship condition or something and they want to come before the board to have us consider a variance, certainly that's an option. Okay, any further discussion on the motion to approve Ordinance 6? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Okay, all right, that passes. Thank you for that discussion, all. Okay, so we're down to Lake Quality Committee. Mike.
I just have two things. Lake froze over December 12th, and the lake level today is 922.44. That's it.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. Next, the Lake Utilization Committee. Mark?
We did not have a quorum at the LUC, so I can't put anything straight for approval from the LUC, but I'll go through these and we can decide. Wildwood Beach Manor condominiums, renewal, and same as last year.
And the only thing that we added with that one was we did have some feedback to them that we gave a month ago, where we showed the layout of the dock over the past 3 or 4 years and how it's shifted or impeded even over on the south side of their ADUA. So we worked with them to make sure that they know the diagram that they're submitting is the diagram that they're going to put their dock this year, and got the numbers right and the measurements, so they at least have that straightened out now.
Also, we're changing it up a little this year. We're also going to be adding, as I present, the boat count for each dock. And the Wildwood Beach Manor is 11. And I move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
The next one is White Bear Lake City Marina, 160 slips. Last year they had 2 sitting on the side on the north side, the VFW side, and they've removed those for this year. So it went from 162 to 160, and I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the municipal marina. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
Next one, White Bear Yacht Club.
Dog Beach fence.
So we shelved that.
Yeah.
It wasn't discussed at that meeting because they weren't privy to the water quality information. It just went directly to the board. So
Oh, okay, so it's a board thing. So do you want to just finish up and then we'll get to that one?
Sure.
On board?
That's fair.
Okay.
Thank you. Next one is White Bear Lake Yacht Club. They have 22 sailing school boats, which they're charged at a regular rate for, and then they have 24 commercial, which they're charged the commercial rate for. They have 1 ramp, and again, same configuration as last year. And I move to approve.
We had brought this up the last time, Meredith. You had some questions on the counts. We went through the counts, and Sherry and I double-checked it, so they all matched up. You're looking at me like you don't trust
I
me.
believe she believes you.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay, so do we have a motion and a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Meredith?
I just have a comment on it. We would ask any other commercial marina to redo their diagram, I think. I'm fully in favor of passing it tonight, but I think that they should make their diagram a little easier to read with the numbers. for the future.
We can do that.
Because we would do that to Tallies, we would do that to any other commercial marina to make them renumber it, so it's a little easier for next year. I think they should renumber it and
And I think when they Xeroxed or scanned the one 2 years ago, it was color coded and good.
Perfect, right here.
And then they scanned it and it's all black. So we can figure out how we swap it or get with them and make sure it's right.
But you're comfortable that it's right now?
Yep.
All right. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes.
Next one, VFW horseshoes. This is, I just want to note that this is not a charity, so we did not waive the fee. They are paying the fee to have horseshoes on the lake. And I move to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
Next one up,
Alicia Heights.
Chair and Board, is Alicia Heights. 7 Watercraft. The boat layout has changed, but it seems to be in a better place right now. So I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes.
Next one, Scott Bonin. Scott was unable to attend tonight, but same as last year. He has 6 watercraft. Just to let you guys know, so Scott's property also has 3 or 4 properties adjacent to him who have easement to his, and that's why we allow him to have more than 4 boats. So I move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
Next one, Cottage Park, no change from last year, 14 watercraft. I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes.
Next one is Manitou Island Association water structure. There was some verbiage in there that we kind of need to talk about, and one says buoys and one says swim buoys and buoys.
And now it says buoys and swim floats.
And swim floats. Thank you. And I believe the swim floats are the ropes. And we can have a discussion here now. We can table this. It's my opinion that that is a private association. It's not open for the public. And as this being public waters, that they should not be able to block navigable water. I think it's fine if they want to put line buoys up, kind of like we do on the rock bar in front of Ramsey Beach. You know, if you want to put them every 25, 30 feet, say swim area, swim area, swim area, I think that would be plenty acceptable, but I don't think they should be able to just rope off a section of the lake. And I don't think the DNR would like that either. So I don't know what the board wants to do, if you want to table it. And I'm suggesting we table this and then we find out. Or we can approve it with making sure that there is no ropes blocking navigable water.
Chris?
I'm learning. The only thing, I've looked up the ordinances for the DNR. They say you can have a designated area, right? But then you're right on the navigable water. They say no swim marker may obstruct water traffic or unduly interfere with public use of the water. So that's kind of open. Like if I'm out 20 feet, am I really going to be driving my boat on the shore? Or are we just taking a hard stance that that's blocking navigable water? Because this applies for both property owners or leasees, so I would think that would be city property too. Where I don't want to screw with the city beaches either, because I think the buoys are important there. Where I think we just need to know what the rules really are and how that can be interpreted.
Alan?
Well, board, the way we have in the past is, especially when it comes to the public swim areas, those can be roped off for safety. And so that's why the accommodation is there for ropes and buoys, as opposed to this, which can be marked with buoys but not with ropes. So I agree with Mark.
I'm wondering the difference between public and private, though, because I don't see anything that, it just says a property owner or leasee.
So,
Always interpreted it that public swim areas can be roped.
yeah.
And that's it.
I
This
live
is
a
not
block and a
one.
half from Matabita Beach, and I can park my car there, I can use their facilities, and there's lifeguards there. And it's city property, it's public. There's nothing on that island that's public.
Correct.
But like, look at Chautauqua, there's no lifeguards, there's hardly any parking, but they have ropes. Like, I get what you're saying, and I'm not fighting you on it. What
Yeah,
I'm trying to get at
I
is,
understand.
I don't understand the difference between public and private. And I think it's important to have ropes, but if it's really not impeding, like, what is truly obstructing watercraft traffic? Is that 6 inches of water, or
Well,
is that?
Whatever it isn't, it certainly is roping off an area of the lake.
But would you ever travel through it?
Well, your prop gets caught in the rope, and that's an impediment.
There,
just thinking through
the way
it.
I see it is, there's not always people swimming there. If there's people swimming there, then you have to back out.
Right.
If there's not people swimming there, then it's navigable water and it can be used.
We still call this Bass Gate for those who remember.
Yeah.
And
What was
so
Bass
we
Gate.
call it Bass Gate because
What was
bass
Bass
fishermen
Oh,
and
Bass Gate.
women
Anglers.
presumably,
Like-
they couldn't get in between docks and some areas of the lake because homeowners had cordoned them off for swimming purposes and basically privatized that section of the lake. And so it created a huge kerfuffle, and so that was kind of when it's been established that, and that's 20 years ago now, that unless you're a public beach and you're preserving the safety of children with the ropes for swimming and the buoys, no more ropes and no more cordoning off the lake. And I would definitely call this, and Chautauqua too for that matter, as a private, shouldn't be roped.
Susie, just a moment. Sherry?
Excuse me, earlier today, I looked at the Ramsey County website, Water Patrol's special permits for another thing. They have updated their information, so we talked at the LUC of them, somebody researching what are some new things there. But I just quickly went to the website right now, and there's actually a private swimming area information here. So maybe it should just be tabled till we get a chance to look at all this.
And maybe we can get some clarification from the applicant to just what their intention is. Maybe
If they're ropes, or they're willing to just do the buoys, like
Yeah.
it says in the.
Yeah, and my recollection, and I'll get to you in just a moment, my recollection is that we've had this same discussion with the applicant in the past, and they said no ropes, that
Okay.
they wouldn't include
Maybe
ropes.
it's not an
So
issue.
maybe it's just a clarification that's required. Susie?
As I recall, that discussion was concerning that private beach on the island, and it's twice as big as the area they wanted to rope off. But there were so many boats that had moved from Becker's Point over to that area that they were concerned about teaching their grandchildren, children, whatever, to swim in that area. So they were just roping up or making markings just for half of the area that they're entitled to, as I recall. They were, just concerned that there were so many people in boats so close and so much drinking going on. They were concerned about their own children's privacy, or not privacy, but safety,
Okay.
in the same way that it would be at a public beach.
Okay, thank you. So are you guys okay tabling it and
We'll
taking a
table
look? Okay. Okay, on to the next.
Next one is East Shore Dock. I will be abstaining from this vote as it's my association. 12 Watercraft, no change from last year. Last year, East Shore Dock Association did ask for extra length because of the water levels, but it didn't come through with that. So it's changed, no change from last year, 150-foot of dock, 12 boats, same way it's been for 20 years. And I will move to approve and abstain.
You'll abstain. So do you want to move to approve, Chris?
I'll move to approve East Shore for 2025.
And I'll second. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
And then the final is the city of Birchwood. They have 4 docks, Ash, Birch, Elm, and Delwood. Ash will have 6 watercraft, Birch will have 8, Elm will have 4. Delwood will have 7. And I move to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. And you have McCartney Estates there, Mark, or?
We tabled McCartney.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Their diagram, we just want them to define their ADA lines. The property has enough width, they just did not document that. We just want to lay that out, and we'll help them.
They have a really nice drawing of their dock and how it's positioned, but we don't know where the next closest structures are or where the ADUA lines are. So we're just asking them to clean up their diagram.
Actually, should they put in where the structure is? I can't remember if that was on our.
It's usually on the application itself. It says how far
Right.
to the structure to the
Okay.
north,
If
how
they put the
far.
lines though,
And then
and they
put a
show that their dock's like even 10 feet
distance?
away.
Yeah.
That implies that they're within the ordinance of 5 feet either side.
All right, so good for you guys?
Yep.
Okay, so let's take up the
Dog park.
the City of White Bear Lake Dog Beach fence. This is we had some discussion about it at the November meeting. It's a permit that's the same as was approved last year. And I'll just get us going. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, so let's have some discussion. I can get us started. I think a couple of things. One is that our role here is, I think, twofold. One is to approve this fence that extends out, only the portion that extends out over the water, and then also a water quality issue that's been raised. The water quality data that we've seen as a board wouldn't indicate pollution being caused or resulting at that location that would, maybe be other than just waterfowl, not necessarily associated with dogs. And then another thing I think about, and I don't know, Ellen, maybe you can chime in on this, but I think in a situation, let's say that the board doesn't approve the fence, so the city can't put the fence in over the water, and then there's some incident where a dog, runs over to this neighboring property or something and causes a problem. Then is the board culpable in that situation for not allowing the fence?
Well, the easiest way to answer that would be that you're still going to have to come up with a reason to, I guess, push back and deny the permit, right? So they would have a right to appeal your denial, so you're going to have to come up with rational reasons for the denial, right? And so they've already suggested that the fence is important to create that separation. And so if everyone's got a good opinion as to why that wouldn't work or why it shouldn't work, that's going to have to go into your rationale for the denial.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Chris?
Thanks. One, I don't think we can say the dog feces are causing a problem, but we can't say it's not, because we've had feedback where they've seen the dogs defecate in the lake, but nobody could ever measure if the dogs are really causing a problem or not. So I'm kind of iffy on that. The second is the diagram. I would want them to define how long this fence or this thing is, because it says it's approximately 100 feet, and then I've read another material and I could not find it again, but it sounds like they want to extend it further, or I read that in an editorial maybe in the paper. So I'd want to understand their intentions if this is it and it's not going to impede any more into the lake. I'd want to find that out, because when this first came up, the fence was already in the lake. Like they first they didn't come to us. Second, they told us there was no problems, and now they want to extend it, or so it's. I feel like the city keeps coming back and just kind of doing what they want to do, where I don't think we should be setting a precedent of putting fences into the lake. I think it's a weird thing where this will, I feel like this will set a precedent for private owners if they get in a fight with their neighbor and they don't like their dog and they want to have a fence, or they don't even like the person who, their kids are walking on their beach, and next thing you know, we have fences on our beaches. I think this sets a weird precedent for that.
Okay, and I'll just remind the board that the permit application that the motion would approve has this 4-foot tall chain link fence, length as needed to extend from shore to water's edge. So technically, it's not out over the water, it's just to the water's edge.
But it's more than that, because there's a structure in the lake, too.
Well, the application says it's to the water's edge.
Right, but they have to account for the structure that's floating in the lake also.
Is that
It's that
like
big orange and white floaty thing. So their permit doesn't actually describe what they're actually putting in the lake also.
Okay, well, okay.
See how they have it, if you look in that diagram, they have 3 different colors, and they're 3 different types of fences. So that first red part, I think, is the above.
The red and
chain-
blue are the same fence, just one is above OH, ordinary high water, and then the other one's below.
Right, and the buoys.
I think that's all the chain.
That's
link
all
fence.
chain link.
So
Here's, my thought on this is, sorry.
It says, same as last year. Last year, the fence cantilevered over the water without any posts into the water.
Did it flat?
And it was probably a 8 to 10 foot section that was cantilevered over. And then there were buoys that went out farther, rope buoys that went out quite a bit farther.
I just have a
Last year,
few
so
thoughts.
that's what they had last year.
Mark?
I don't want to beat it to death, but I think personally, it's a good idea. Almost everybody I know who lives on the lake has a dog, and they're running in the lake and doing everything too. I understand that this is going to be more saturated with dogs in this area, but I do think, a dog can run a lot faster than they can swim. And it's really easy for a dog to run down the sand into somebody else's yard, and it's a lot harder for them to swim around a fence and get there before the owner gets a chance to get a hand on it. So I personally think it's a good idea.
Okay, any further discussion?
I think Chris has a good point in that we don't want to set a precedent in putting fences along the lake, but I think we can rationalize it by saying that the public safety for this fence, and that it'd be hard for a private homeowner to argue that their fence was for public safety.
Just a minute. Susie?
We were just talking about non-navigable water with the ropes. Doesn't this present the same situation?
No, it's like a dock. The rope is roped off. You can't go from this. You can take a boat on either side of it if you need to. Same as a dock.
Okay.
Mike?
We'll probably hear more about this from a standpoint of the citizens that live in the area want us to enforce more stringent water quality criteria, because they're not in favor of the dog park, but it's the things that come with the dog park, the parking and their up and down, there's parking is, they park in the streets, they take their dogs through people's yards, they do a lot of, but it's all on land things that we have no control over. And it's the city that's decided to, have this dog park. So one of the things that they've asked for, and they've already come here before, is, can we enforce more stringent rules on water quality? So it might be a fact where we might ask the city to do more water testing than just the 2 times. I think they did it twice. I'm not sure. I won't go on record saying that, but ask them for maybe a little more frequent water testing. And other than that, that's all we can do.
Chris?
one clarification then. So if I put ropes out and I leave a gap wide enough to get a boat into there, is that navigable?
Yes.
And that works?
Like if you were to put a rope out perpendicular to the lake
Let's say I
shore.
go right angle, come in, bring it in, and leave 10 feet from shore.
In my mind, it's not, because you can't get to it this way, you can't get to it this way. You can only get to it this way. Whereas, like a dock,
But you're just going around it like this thing.
yeah, like a dock or what they're showing here And I think the analogy to a dock is a good one, in my opinion, that you can drive right up against it here, you can drive right up against it on the other side.
But you see what this starts doing, though? Like, we start having these combos like this stuff, and we'll run into it.
And maybe we will.
And that the other problem I have is, like, we're putting it there for safety because we know there's a problem there, too. So, like, even though there's a problem, we're just kind of helping with the problem by putting stuff there, where maybe it shouldn't be there at all, and then there is no problem.
Yeah, I think the decision to have the dog beach there or not have the dog beach there isn't necessarily this board's. That's the city of White Bear. We're just acting on this fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see it a little different.
I would want to know what the city's intentions are going forward with the length of that, the buoys that go in the lake, knowing how long that's going to be, if there's intentions to put it out further. Because I did read somewhere where they want to make this thing longer, where we don't really have any rules around some of this stuff. So are they going to have 400 feet of buoys eventually, or what?
Okay, yeah, and I think, we could speculate, but I think that what we need to do is just deal with what's in front of us at the moment.
But that's the other thing. It's not even documented what it is, like how long. It's just the chain link fence. Like, I would want them to measure and tell us how long that thing goes out, right? Just like we were saying with any other diagram.
Okay, well, and the text in the application says to extend from shore to water's edge.
Right, but there's another structure in the water that goes out 100 feet.
The buoys.
It's like a big tube. It's like a big tube buoy thing. It's like red and white.
Haven't seen that.
Yeah, that's what's in the water. Yeah.
Just seen string buoys.
It's not, and then they have string buoys at the end of it. They have this big other structure that goes in the water. It's like orange, red, and white. It's white and red, I think. And it's like this big tube thing. Yeah, it's big.
It just floats on the water surface.
Yeah, and it goes out like,
It's white, red.
I don't know how many feet, but it goes out further. It's not just ropes.
It's connected by a rope.
Well, it's like, it's connected to the chain link. It's all connected in one line, long thing, so.
So you're saying the diagram isn't correct?
I don't think it tells the full picture, because we did have pictures of it when they first brought it.
I don't have it on this computer.
That was 2 years ago. When Paul came in, we had the pictures and they showed it, but it's a structure that's in the lake.
You should just tell them to put a dock in.
All right. Go ahead.
So you'd like them to put a number on how far out those
I think we should
buoys
just
go?
describe it better, what's actually being put in the lake, and like,
Distance.
and we can say, here's the distance on it, and we shouldn't add to it.
We would ask that of anybody else who gave us a diagram, like, they show you, like, the red is above ordinary high water, but it doesn't say how long that is, and the blue, it doesn't show you how long that chain link below ordinary high water is. And you'd probably like to get at least some hard numbers, and then, again, where's the end of that buoy line? Just give us a number.
And I think that Ramsey County would want to license that buoy as well. The big one that Chris is talking about. So there's more questions, I think, tonight than answers. And I certainly get the logic that you're trying to point out, Brian, which is the only reason they came to us is because of the low water. And of course, the OHW was being exceeded with the chain link, right? So that's why we got this in the first place. But now it sounds like it's, sort of morphed into something else. So
Okay, so here's what I would, I'm sorry. Here's what I would suggest is I'll withdraw the motion, and Sherry, maybe you can reach out to the city and try to get some responses. And I think if I'm recalling them all, one would be a diagram to give us some numerical values to the lengths that they're proposing. A second would be to ask them if they've received any permits from Ramsey County for buoys, and anything else that we want to ask the city to clarify.
Just a better description of what is the structure along the shore into the water. Just because you have a different, I know like, we had some of those pictures of it, but I know you had this vision of like just a little rope there, but it's like this big thing.
So maybe ask for some clarification on that as well.
On both the fence length and the buoys?
Yeah.
Just what is the structure that goes?
Basically, anything that,
The buoys, you mean? What is that structure?
Look at it, this thing is like a big giant tube.
yeah, like a floating tube. So ask for clarification on what materials will be below the ordinary high water level.
Below, okay.
And how far into the lake?
Yeah, we already mentioned that one. Scott?
Do we require, I mean, swimming beaches typically are demarcated with buoys. They're usually a special kind of like little buoys around the swimming area. Is any approval given by us or by the county for those kind of?
They do. I worked with the city of Matamidi this summer. They expanded their beach, and yes, they do have a certain square footage that they're allowed to have. There's ordinances on it, and they had to go back and get it changed with the DNR to add additional space to their beach
For the
swim
swimming
area.
beach.
That's the heart of the Ramsey County's new addition too. So quality standards for the buoys and 2,500 square, I think, is what they've limited it to in Ramsey, and it takes a special permit, so.
For a swimming beach.
Yep.
Yes.
Private.
Anybody else? The motion's been withdrawn, but we can continue the discussion if you'd like. Mike?
Just quickly, this page right before the
Yep.
map, they talk about the length of the fence and why they have it cantilevered. I don't know why I can't say that word. So a fence was installed above ordinary high water to prevent dogs from passing into the swimming beach area, along with a string of floating buoys that extend out into the lake approximately 100 feet in length to delineate swimming area. As the water fluctuates down at times, the buoys sit on the exposed beach and allow dogs to easily cross over them into the swimming area. The temporary fence extends from the end of the permanent fence, which ends at the ordinary high water mark, to the edge of the water to the exposed line. The fence is 4 feet high. The length of the fence would be adjusted as needed as the water levels increase, shorter fence, or decrease. A short cantilevered fence panel, no posts, would extend over the buoys to ensure buoys would prevent dogs from crossing over. But you're saying they've got big,
It's just all of it is, it's all approximations and stuff. They should just say what they're doing this year. And what are the structures that go into the lake? Or whatever is the ADUA or the things that we manage, like what is in there?
okay.
Can I ask, Mike, where did you cite that from? I didn't get that.
It's in the packet.
Yeah, it's in the
Their
application.
application.
It's the page just before the diagram.
Gotcha, okay, in the application, okay.
Okay, so that seems to, I think the only thing that doesn't clarify is the length of the buoys.
100 feet.
100 feet.
Approximately.
So we could, I will, well, let's just see what we all think. I will make a motion to approve the application contingent on them getting the necessary approvals that they need from the Ramsey County and the DNR.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we want to have any further discussion on that?
And we're saying no updated diagram?
No, I think they pretty,
Not knowing what structure goes into the lake, we don't need to understand that?
well, I think they've mentioned it here, that it's 100-foot length of buoys.
As I remember, Brian, it doesn't go straight out. It kind of goes like this. And they did say it sits on the dry land when the water goes down.
Right.
But it does impede anyone going from, what would that be, the south side? It impedes people going towards that beach there.
Okay, but it doesn't close it off.
It's more like a dock with an extension.
Okay.
I don't see,
I think we need more.
what the description is doesn't match what they're saying. That's all.
Okay. All right, so we have motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, do you have that?
So, who said, I'm sorry, who said nay? Raise your hand. Susie, okay.
Okay, thank you for that discussion, by the way. And we're on to the Lake Education Committee. Scott?
Yeah. Let's see, by the end of the year, we did have our final Laker publication of 2024. We got a one-page advertisement, essentially, as part of last year's package. We have received a contract proposal, which I think Sherry gave copies to you. It's got the press publication logo on the top. And this is their proposal for 2025. It's very similar to 2024. We get a 4-page insert coming out around Memorial Day. So we'll have to do some work to come up with content for that. Then we get 3 more, like you've seen last year. The total price is $1,850. It includes having it mailed to everyone on the lake and other addresses that we have given them for the lake, for the multi-user dock associations. If they have given us a list, we've given them to the press. So it does get the word out to our core target audience, plus everyone else, who picks up a copy of that or is sent a copy. They're also sent around Bald Eagle Lake, which isn't our primary concern, but we do have, the information is usually general enough that it would help everyone. So I would like to move that we accept this contract for 2025 for $1,850.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Mike?
It's well within your budget of $3,600.
Yeah, well within budget.
Any further discussion? Meredith?
I'll just say this, I think this partnership is working well. I think that this is a great way to educate the public on things that matter to us and matter to the health of the lake, and that as 10 volunteers, we can't get enough done ourselves, and public education should be our priority.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
Okay, we have the next thing coming up is the lake cleanup on March, 8th or 9th. And that I will sign us up for, we would then be assigned part of the lake to clean up, assuming you can get out on the lake by that time.
And that's March 8th.
Yeah,
Is a Saturday.
yes.
March 8th.
First
Saturday of March.
yeah, well, it's the first Saturday after the last day of overnight
Oh,
ice
yeah, right on.
fishing, right? So we normally provide plastic pickup bag, which would be out of our budget. It's not that much. I will ask, do you need more bags?
We gave them a lot last year.
You did?
Well, remember I had those black,
Yeah, all the ones we have are gone, so if they want more, I'll just have you order some from Amazon for them. We usually get them in yellow, because they're more standard pickup. And that's it, I think. We have a social media report.
Sure, this month I plan to put up some information on salt, some more on winter rules on the ice, and a save the date for our ice cleanup. And anything else you guys would like put up on our social media, I'm happy to do it. And I'll also say that last month, Mike noticed an area on the lake that had thin ice, and we put it up, and Sherry reached out to the Ramsey County Water Patrol, and they went out and marked it for us. So if anyone notices any area of thin ice, heaves, things like that, we could reach out to the Ramsey County, call Sherry, and we'll reach out to Ramsey County, and they'll go out and mark it for us. So thank you to Ramsey County Water Patrol for doing that.
Okay, any questions for Scott or Meredith? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, treasurer reports. Mike?
Treasury report, we need to approve the year-end statement for December. And so I will make a motion that we approve credit card purchases 2024-21, -22, -23, and also an electronic deduction, and checks 4997 through 5004.
Second? We have a motion and a second to approve the December treasurer's report. Any discussion?
Any questions on any of the charges?
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
Okay. As Brian mentioned before in the executive report, that we're going to go to a month-end treasurer's report, which might be simpler. The treasurer's report will be available earlier, which will help Sherry considerably in putting the board packet together. And it also helps at the year-end thing. So we'll do that for this year and see how it works. In changing over to that, though, there's two items that got caught in the middle that need to get paid before the next board meeting. So one is the Minnesota unemployment insurance, which is not very much, but we don't have the total yet. But when she gets the total in the next few days, it has to be written out before the end of the month. It'll be less than $50 for sure. And then the other thing is the League of Minnesota Cities membership dues, $2,358, and in your packet you have a copy of that statement. So if there's any questions, I will make a motion that we approve checks to pay Minnesota UC Insurance Fund for not more than $50, and a check for the League of Minnesota Cities membership dues for $2,358.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve those two checks. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
That's it.
Okay, and so the reason that we don't have a January treasurer's report is because we'll see that at our February meeting, and that'll be from January 1 to January 31? Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions for Mike? Okay. Board council report, Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Happy New Year, everyone. At least we're all smiling because we don't have to worry about the Vikings making it to the Super Bowl. Big sigh. Anyway, as usual, I did have communications with our conservation officer to just kind of test how things are going over this winter. Obviously, it's a very different winter than last winter, and so plenty of thick ice and plenty of activity out there. And so Matt cited the usual things that he sees when there's lots of people out on the ice, which are no licenses for shells, no licenses to fish, too many hooks in the water. He reports that it's relatively clean, which is good. It means people are cleaning up after themselves. And the only hazard that he noted was there's some ice heaves on the rock pile, which some of you have probably heard about. And so that's the only real sort of scary. I asked him if there's any sensitive parts, this winter of the lake, and that's the only one that he cited. So kind of the usual behavior on a well-frozen lake in Minnesota in December and January. So that's all good. And like I said, relatively few violations. I didn't ask him how many actually turned into tickets, because normally what he'll tell people is to go and get your license, pull your line, that sort of thing. So anyway, typical winter in Minnesota, finally. So I would stand for questions.
Any questions for Alan?
And I don't know if Sherry was going to bring this up. I know she sent this around to the board. And I'm sorry if I'm stealing your fire. There's the suggestion in the governor's budget to reduce the funding for the county AIS. Is that something that's going to be brought up? And do we want to take a position and write a letter on behalf of the funding to keep that up and not remove it from the budget? Everyone see that? Some people are looking at me like I don't know what you're talking about.
What would be the timing for getting that letter out?
I can certainly take a stab and make a draft of it and send it around.
And so could we approve something at our February meeting, or would you advocate for you preparing a draft and Sherry could send it out, people could send Sherry comments directly, so we're not discussing it by email, and then we get something out before the February meeting, or what would you advocate for, Alan?
Well, it is the governor's budget, so obviously it's going to be taken up by the legislature, which, if you've been paying attention to the news, they don't quite have their stuff together yet. So I think we have a little bit of time.
Okay.
But that said, the email came by and said, write your letter today. So I think, the early bird gets the worm, and it's not going to be a lengthy letter. It's just going to be on behalf of a group that has a lake in the county, and we benefit from that program. So
Okay.
Never hurts to, get our 2 cents worth in.
And so would that, say a motion to allow Sherry to send a letter on our behalf advocating for that funding to remain in the budget, something like that?
Yeah, and like I said, I'll be happy to write it and just basically say that in so many words and just put it on our letterhead and say this is the position statement of the board.
Okay, so I'll make that motion to allow Sherry to send a letter on our behalf to advocate for that funding to remain in the governor's or in the budget. We have motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, so that passes.
Okay,
Anything
we'll do
else?
that.
Okay, so now we're on to announcements. Sherry?
Yep, just one more thing. I think just a couple of you need to fill out that form I gave you. If you could give that to me before you leave, that would be great. And then just the next board meeting will be held on February 18th.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
A second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Did it.